Once upon a time, the military's image was crafted in press briefings and newspaper columns. Today, it plays out on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And at the center of this shift stands a curious figure, Pete Hegseth, a Fox News host, military veteran, and political influencer. Hegseth has become more than a commentator. He's now part of a cultural movement that merges patriotism, entertainment, and digital influence. Behind the scenes, a transformation has been unfolding within the U.S. military. No longer content with formal press releases and stiff formalities, the armed forces have embraced the playbook of modern media, viral content, slick documentaries, emotional storytelling, and in some cases, alignment with right-wing media figures like Hegseth. This isn't your grandfather's Pentagon. It's a 21st century communications machine, and it's evolving fast. The rise of the military influencer complex. Over the past decade, the military has subtly morphed its outreach strategy. What began as a means to attract young recruits in the digital age has become something much more powerful and, some argue, more political. Pete Hegseth has been a key beneficiary and driver of this evolution. Though not an official military spokesman, his background in the National Guard and vocal support for traditional American values have made him a natural partner for the Defense Department's increasingly slick media campaigns. He doesn't just host military-themed specials on Fox News, he's been given rare access to bases, troops, and weapon systems. In recent years, Hegseth has headlined feature-length patriotic specials, often filmed in collaboration with the military itself. These programs are shot with high-end cinematic production, feature emotional music and drone shots, and often conclude with stirring appeals to faith, country, and service. But how did this collaboration take shape? And what does it reveal about the modern American military? The strategy, image, identity, and influence. At the heart of the military's shift is a desire to connect with the American public, especially younger demographics who are spending less time watching the news and more time scrolling through their phones. Recruitment challenges have plagued the armed forces in recent years, particularly post-pandemic. Traditional tactics like school visits, billboards, and commercials just weren't cutting it. The Army, Navy, and Air Force turned to content creators, video producers, and yes, even Fox News, to help rejuvenate the brand. In this world, Hegseth became more than just a TV personality. He evolved into a kind of avatar for the ideal American serviceman. Tough, masculine, unapologetically patriotic, and aligned with conservative values. He was the face of a culture war campaign dressed in camouflage. With Pentagon approval, Hegseth's programs went behind the scenes of elite units, combat exercises, and weapons training. It was a win-win. The military got glowing coverage and visibility, and Hegseth got to bolster his brand as a defender of the troops and their mission. A media personality with frontline access. Hegseth's rise within the military media ecosystem didn't happen in a vacuum. It came at a time when the Defense Department was increasingly open to partnerships with sympathetic media outlets. While mainstream news channels struggled to gain access, Hegseth and his team were given red carpet treatment. He traveled to aircraft carriers, missile silos, and special forces training facilities. His footage, often highly polished and cinematic, gave Americans an insider's look into life in the military, presented through a lens of admiration and reverence. Soldiers spoke candidly, brass officers delivered strong messages, and Hegseth acted both as a guide and narrator. But this access also raises questions. Why him? Why so much access for one person with a known partisan tilt? And what message does that send? A culture war in camouflage. To understand Hegseth's appeal, it helps to understand his philosophy. He's a staunch defender of traditional values, faith, family, freedom, and sees the military as one of the last bastions of American identity. In his broadcasts and books, he's criticized wokeness in the ranks and championed a return to old-school discipline and masculinity. This stance resonates deeply with a certain segment of the population, particularly older veterans, conservatives, and people who view the military as a symbol of national greatness. Recruiting by way of reality TV. Beyond politics, Hegseth's specials serve another important function: recruitment. Episodes often include profiles of young service members, their training regimens, and their reasons for joining. The visuals are inspiring, Diversified units executing coordinated missions, helicopters landing in dramatic slow motion, soldiers discussing purpose and sacrifice. This is modern recruitment content, far removed from 1980s commercials with rock music and action shots. It's a new genre, cinematic patriotism with reality TV flair. It targets Gen Z and millennials who might scroll past a government ad, but will stop for a dynamic documentary or a viral video. And it's working. Some recruitment officials have quietly praised these specials as effective tools in sparking interest. But again, the concern isn't whether they work, it's whether they cross a line into glorification without context. The military's media machine, larger than Hegseth. It would be unfair to say Hegseth created this trend. He's part of a much larger machine. The Pentagon's public affairs offices now run like full-scale production studios. They produce thousands of hours of content annually, including short documentaries, soldier profiles, social media clips, and press packages. Many branches have their own YouTube channels, complete with serialized content and cinematic montages. Troops are even trained in social media strategy, with some units running TikTok accounts that rival influencers in quality and reach. A new form of state-sponsored storytelling? At its best, this collaboration has reinvigorated interest in the armed forces. It's brought visibility to underappreciated roles, boosted morale, and inspired patriotism. At its worst, it edges towards state-sponsored storytelling, one that's more about affirmation than accountability. Unlike traditional reporters, Hegseth's specials rarely probe tough questions. There are a few mentions of failed missions, internal critiques, or systemic issues like veteran suicide and military sexual misconduct. The story is curated, clean, and overwhelmingly positive. The fallout, critics speak up. Not everyone's on board. Critics from both within and outside the military have raised eyebrows at Hegseth's access and editorial control. Some worry that the military is becoming too cozy with political media. Others fear that by associating primarily with conservative voices, the Pentagon may alienate large swaths of the population who see the institution as drifting from neutrality. The bigger picture: who gets to tell the military's story? The core question isn't whether Hegseth's programs are good or bad. It's about who gets to shape the national narrative. In theory, the military belongs to the people. It serves under civilian leadership, is funded by taxpayers, and is supposed to remain apolitical. But when access is given selectively and messaging is handed to ideologically aligned figures, that balance tips. Conclusion: a new battlefield emerges. In today's America, the fight for hearts and minds isn't happening on battlefields. It's happening on screens. And in that war, content is the ultimate weapon. Pete Hegseth didn't start the military's social media revolution, but he's become its most visible face. But one thing is clear: the military's image is no longer shaped by generals and journalists alone. It's shaped by influencers, video editors, and primetime hosts. And that reality, like a drone shot of a fighter jet silhouetted against a sunset, is both captivating and deeply complicated.